My name is Aria Robbins, and I'm with the Charles U. Science Scholars Program. And I just want to welcome you and let you know we're so happy that you're here with us for this occasion and to hear from our esteemed panel of speakers. Uh, and now we're going to turn it over to hear some welcome remarks from Dr. Cheryl Sis, the College of Natural Science Associate Dean of Faculty Development.
Thank you, Ariel. I too would like to welcome all of you to this Amplify NatSci event to celebrate Women's History Month. It is so important to recognize and honor the contributions to STEM that have been made by NatSci women faculty, staff, students, and alumni, and I'm really delighted that you all are here to help us do that. I myself am a neuroscientist by training, and I am so very fortunate to have had strong women role models and mentors during my scientific career. And many of them came of age in their profession, at a time when women faced enormous barriers to success. And while I stand on the shoulders of these giants, I also recognize that women scientists still face structural sexism and barriers to success even today. So we are here tonight to lift up the next generation of women scientists and to celebrate their accomplishments. And I am really excited to hear the stories and experiences of our guest panelists. And so thanks to you panelists especially for being here tonight with us. So again, welcome, and I look forward to the remainder of the program.
Thank you, Associate Dean Sisk. My name is Danielle Flores Lopez, and I use she, her pronouns. I serve as the Director of Academic Advising and Student Success Initiatives. I want to share our land acknowledgement. We collectively acknowledge that Michigan State University occupies the ancestral, traditional, and contemporary lands of the Anishinaabe, Three Fires Confederacy of Ojibwa, Ottawa, and Potawatomi peoples. In particular, the university resides on land ceded in the 1819 Treaty of Saginaw. We recognize, support, and advocate for the sovereignty of Michigan's 12 federally recognized Indian nations, for historic Indigenous communities in Michigan, for Indigenous individuals and communities who live here now, and for those who were forcibly removed from their homelands. By offering this land acknowledgement, we affirm Indigenous sovereignty and will work to hold Michigan State University more accountable to the needs of American Indian and Indigenous peoples.
Thank you very much, Dr. Flores Lopez. My name is Kendra Pyle. My pronouns are she, her. I am a coordinator for diversity, equity, and inclusion in the college in a graduate assistant role, and I also am a master's student in the program, the social work program here at the university. And I wanted to give a brief history of Women's History Month. Women's History Month is a celebration and commemoration of women's contributions in U.S. history. The celebration of Women's History Month grew out of a Women's History Week celebration started in 1978 in Sonoma County, California, for the local school district. In 1980, women's group and historians lobbied for national recognition, and at that time, President Jimmy Carter issued the first presidential proclamation declaring the week of March 8th of 1980 as Women's National History Week. In March of 1987, Congress passed Public Law 100-9 designating March as Women's History Month. The National Women's History Alliance designates and publishes an annual theme, which is this year is Women Providing Healing, Promoting Hope. And when they declared this theme, they said, this is both a tribute to the ceaseless work of caregivers and frontline workers during this ongoing pandemic, and also a recognition of the thousands of ways that women of all cultures have provided both healing and hope throughout history. In proclaiming Women's History Month for this year, President Biden proclaimed, throughout our history, despite hardship, exclusion, and discrimination, women have strived and sacrificed for equity and equality in communities across the country. Generations of Native American women were stewards of the land and continue to lead the fight for climate justice. Black women fought to end slavery, advocate for civil rights, and passing the Voting Rights Act. Women of the labor movement are achieving monumental reforms to help all workers secure better pay, benefits, and safety they deserve. LGBTQI plus women and girls are leading the fight for justice, opportunity, and equality, especially for the transgender community. Women and girls continue to lead groundbreaking civil rights movements for social justice and freedom so that everyone can realize the full promise of America. And at this time, I would like to turn this over to our two student moderators. Yanni Rivera Arocho, and Sarah Cook.
Hello, everyone. My name is Janielis Rivera Arocho, she, her, and I am currently a senior at MSU pursuing a degree in human biology. I am currently from Puerto Rico, and it is my dream to help the Latino community receive equal healthcare. I am the youngest of 4 daughters, so I have been surrounded by strong women who push boundaries most of my life. Additionally, through my work as a medical scribe, I have worked alongside admirable women who fought for their patients every day. Through them, I have been inspired to break barriers and stereotypes and excel as a doctor. I feel honored to be surrounded by such exemplary women.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Cook. I use she, her pronouns. I am currently a senior majoring in integrative biology with a pre-veterinary concentration at Michigan State University. As a pre-veterinary student, a lot of my experiences have been focused on helping animals, whether it is working at the small animal veterinary hospital, the MSU Dairy Cattle Teaching and Research Center, or through volunteering throughout the community. However, I have also gotten heavily involved in a research project under Dr. Yulia Gans. I work in her lab spearheading a project to elucidate the function of a gene involved in enteric nervous system development. These diverse experiences have influenced me to pursue a career in both the veterinary and research fields. I'm specifically focused on a career in veterinary oncology and have been accepted to a DVM PhD program at Colorado State University for the fall of 2022. I would not have been able to find my passion for veterinary research without the influence of the strong and amazing women who have mentored me throughout my life.
Now we would like to introduce our panelists. Dr. Lorraine Lopez Morel, she, her, graduated from MSU with a Bachelor of Science in Physiology, completed her medical degree at Columbia University, anatomic and clinical pathology residency at the University of Rochester, and forensic pathology fellowship at East Carolina University. She was lucky in that she always knew she wanted to be a doctor and discovered forensic pathology early. She is originally from Puerto Rico. Her mother is a scientist as well, which informed her early love for research and learning.
Sandra McClure, she, her, graduated from Michigan State University in 2019 with her degree in chemistry and human biology. She attributes much of her success at MSU to the support of the Drew Scholars Program and her many research experiences in the Department of Chemistry, which propelled her to apply to graduate school. Today, Sandra is a third-year doctoral candidate at the University of Chicago, working towards her degree in molecular metabolism and nutrition in the Biological Sciences Division. Specifically as a member of the MIMI lab, she uses synthetic biology strategies to create live therapeutics to alter the human gut microbiome and treat gastrointestinal diseases. Outside of the lab, Sandra is an active member of her university community, partaking in student leadership initiatives, recruitment of new applicants, and community outreach.
Dr. Chelsea Spriggs, she, her, grew up in Detroit, Michigan, and received her Bachelor of Science in Microbiology from Michigan State University. While there, she studied the mouse polyomavirus as a model for breast cancer progression, which sparked her interest in DNA tumor virus research. She went on to earn her PhD in microbiology immunology from Northwestern University, where she worked with Dr. Lou Lymans to investigate the role of host DNA damage response pathways in human papillomavirus replication and transformation. She is currently a postdoctoral research fellow in Dr. Billy Tsai's lab in the Department of Cellular and Developmental Biology at the University of Michigan Medical School. Her research is focused on understanding how polyomavirus interacts with host motor proteins to promote viral entry. Chelsea will open her own independent research lab studying virus-host interactions during DNA tumor virus infection at the University of Michigan in summer 2022.
We would like to thank our panelists for being here tonight and have prepared a few questions to ask ahead of time. The first is, how did you decide to pursue an education and career in STEM? And whoever would like to go first can start.
I can go.
Be happy to go first. As I said in my bio, I was really lucky that I knew early on I wanted to be a doctor, and it's mainly because of my father. He passed away when I was 4 years old of a heart condition, and I always had a lot of questions about it that really nobody could answer. So I thought I have to figure it out myself. At first, I wanted to be a cardiothoracic surgeon, but I decided that having people's lives in my very hands was a little bit too much responsibility for me. And so I decided I wanted to know everything about the human body that there was to know. And so I went into pathology, and a subspecialty into pathology is forensic pathology, studying the cause and manner of death. And so I'm able to tell grieving families how their loved one has died. And that's been really fulfilling for me.
Okay, I can go if that's all right. Sorry, I just saw that you wanted me to do yourself, Dr. Spriggs. So my name's Sandra again, she, her. So I decided to pursue an education and career in STEM, still on the education side of things. But it was a lot of, early on, it was a lot of figuring out, first of all, what I didn't like, because that was a lot easier than figuring out what I did. And it ended up being like things like French history and business. No offense to those fields, but in being more critical about like what I was studying and trying really hard to like find out more about myself and what I really liked, I found that I was really drawn towards chemistry and lab research, and I didn't really know all the time what I could do with that. And so I had phenomenal mentors, some of whom are here, and they really helped me kind of figure out that I could take all of my interests and actually like make a career out of that. And it just like aligned really well with what I wanted to do. And yeah, and I think one of the toughest parts in like actually like deciding to do this was sometimes like knowing that I had the interest in it, and I knew that, and that was kind of what I needed to make the push. I didn't need to be like have some like incredible intelligence, you know. I always doubted myself. And so just like knowing that I had the interest in it and the like ability to like work hard and see it through, that was like a big part of it for me.
How did I decide? I guess I kind of fell into it. So science was always the courses that drew me and drew my attention in school. And I did have a lot of support from my science teachers in high school, which was really awesome. They were some of my favorite teachers, but I guess like some college students, I didn't really think about a career when I went to college. I was like, oh, I'm going to take some classes and have some fun. So I picked all the classes that were science classes because that seemed like what I would enjoy doing. And so thankfully through my microbiology degree, I had an option of doing undergraduate research. And so that's how I really decided, okay, this is what I'm going to do for a career. So I worked with Dr. Michelle Fluke in the microbiology department, and she introduced me to viruses and taught me about graduate school. So I thought I was going to go to med school because that's the only career I really knew that I could do if I liked science. But she introduced me to grad school and biomedical research, and that's kind of how I ended up on this career path.
Thank you, guys. Our next question is, what advice would you give to women and girls who are interested in studying and working in STEM?
I can start this time. My advice would be to find yourself a support network that you can, vent to, encourage each other, and just, sometimes, well, being a scientist in particular, I'm just going to speak from my own experience, is really difficult. And depending on your field, you may be very underrepresented as a woman in science, in research. And so luckily in the life sciences, it's a little bit more equal, but, leadership positions are often still male dominated. And so I think finding a good support network of women and men, actually, just anyone who's going to encourage you and keep you motivated to keep going is my advice.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Dr. Spriggs. I would say also that if you're interested, just do it, because like the being scared and having a lot of doubts is going to be there no matter if you like choose science or another path. But if you really like love science, and like fears and doubts, they'll always be there, but they shouldn't dictate like what path that takes you down. So I think just do it. And I think, like, I mean, everyone on this call, I'm sure you all should be very confident, but I'm sure you're even more competent than you ever like even realize. And like, science can always use more women. I'd like more female coworkers.
Yeah, normalize failure, I think, is my advice. You're going to fail. Everybody fails. I failed many times. After a brief grieving period, you are going to get back up and keep going because this is what you've chosen to do and you can do it. And don't be afraid to fail again. Get back on that horse every time. I failed. We've all failed here, I'm sure.
Thank you all. Our next question is, what academic or professional work accomplishments are you most proud of?
I'll go first. Not to like humble brag, but very recently I got a paper accepted for for publication, and that was very exciting, and I'm really proud of myself for that. I was working on this paper for more than a year, and it's my first author publication, so I'm very excited about that. But also getting into grad school was also one of the best days of my life, so lots of fun things. Thank you for all the encouragement.
I think my proudest accomplishment is probably last year or 2 years ago, I helped to found an organization called the Black Microbiologists Association. And we're also known as Black in Microbiology. And so it's a women's led group, nonprofit that just some trainees, really, we were all postdoctoral fellows at the time, came together and we put together a virtual conference just to highlight that there are Black microbiologists and create a network because, in addition to being a woman, I'm a woman of color. And so that adds a whole different layer of imposter syndrome, isolation, and just not really seeing representation in science. And so it's been really great getting to network with these women. And we also have a membership right now that's over 250 people from all over the globe. And I think we have members from every continent except for Antarctica. So it's really awesome. And I think that's probably more proud than getting my PhD and my job, but I'm also proud of those. But that was just really able to give back to my community and build a space where other people can see themselves represented in my field was more important to me.
I'd say the day I got into med school was pretty amazing. Getting that envelope leaning against my door, I can still picture the day where I just saw it and I knew that I'd gotten in. But apart from that, getting through it all, surviving through it all, because it's been a difficult road, and anybody who says it's easy is lying. And also inspiring other people to switch into my field from other subspecialties in pathology and showing them how much fun and how fulfilling it can be. It's not all grossness and decomposition or fetishistically obsessed with death. It's actually interesting, and you need to know a lot about the human body in order to do this. And I'm proud of being able to convince people to go into my field.
Thank you. Our next question is, if you could go back and talk to the person you were as an entering first-year student, what would you tell yourself?
I would say enjoy yourself a little more. Don't beat yourself up so much whenever you make a mistake. Figure out what to do better the next time and move on, and don't replay it so much in your head, and just enjoy the friends you make and the colleagues you meet a little bit more.
I was going to tell Sandra to go because she was closest to being a first year. She might remember better, but I think that I would tell myself to explore all of the different options that are in STEM. And so, I mean, I kind of totally skipped over the S&T part of like this, branch of careers. And so even within science, with a PhD in microbiology, there's so much that you can do. So I knew I could be a professor or have a lab, but I didn't know that I could go into law or go into policy and work for the government or work at the NIH or the CDC. And there's just so much that you can do even with your bachelor's degree. And so I think exploring different career opportunities and not thinking that it's just doctor, like medical doctor or veterinary doctor. That's what I thought the two choices were. So there's a lot of them. And yeah, so just explore and look around.
I think those are both really good advice. You guys are really hitting it on the nose. I think if I were to like talk to when you're first year, you're 18. So what I would tell like my 18-year-old self is maybe just to like have a bit less anxiety. I think that every time I would like go do something, I would think like the world was ending, and that was not always the case. I just had to have a little bit more confidence, like to know that I was going on the right path. Like I wasn't doing anything wrong. I just didn't know that I was doing anything right. And so maybe I would just tell her to like settle, like go talk to Ariel, go talk to Dr. Caldwell, like things are going to be okay.
Thank you. Those were really great answers. So the next question is, what are the topics or opportunities in your field that most excite or interest you?
I was kind of excited about this question, so I guess I'll go first. So I'm a synthetic biologist, which is kind of a new field, and I kind of work on the interface between molecular engineering and microbiology, which I think is absolutely the most exciting thing in the world. And so what I'm working on and what a large part of this new field is working on are taking commensal gut microbes and having them detect states of inflammation or any type of disease. It can be like cancers or liver steatosis, all of these things, and detect those diseases by making bacteria that can just give you therapeutics. And I think it's absolutely the coolest field in the world. Sorry to everyone else. Think it would be synthetic.
Okay, well, I'm going to jump in because mine is kind of close to yours, except for I am team virus, and I think that viruses are the coolest things, even more than bacteria. But right now, I know that viruses, we're in this global pandemic, and right now we all think about viruses as being like the bad guys and killers. But I'm really interested in how viruses can teach us about our own bodies. And so I study virus-host interactions, and there's a lot of opportunity to learn about ourselves and other diseases just based off of what we know from viruses. And so viruses are super cool, but I also am interested, and I think one part of my research is going to be these things called oncolytic viruses, which in theory are viruses that only infect cancer cells and not healthy cells. And so I think it's kind of like what Sandra said, but it's just so cool that this thing that's only thought of as being just pure evil could potentially be used to treat this like terrible human disease of cancer.
I'm really excited about the molecular aspect of my field. There are a few offices in the US right now that are doing genetic studies on people who die suddenly under the age of 40, especially from a multitude of cardiac related mutations. And so I think it's really important because not only can we diagnose disease that is naked, it's invisible to the naked eye, or to histology, because in a lot of these diseases, there's no abnormality microscopically, but we can also warn family members who might have the same mutations and get them treated before they die suddenly. So that's really exciting to me.
Thank you. Last question that we have prepared is, what is the most fulfilling aspect of your academic or career field?
I can start. I think for me, it would be the ability to interact with and mentor younger trainees, people like the next generation that's coming up behind me. And so there's been a lot of discussions lately about whether people should stay in academia or whether you should go into industry or some other more lucrative career. And I think one of the things that keeps me in academia and just really excites me about it is that I'll be able to be that person who meets an undergrad who didn't know that they could go into science or be a scientist, and I'll teach them how to do experiments and teach them how to apply for grad school. And it just like is this trickle down effect, and it's so fulfilling to see people just get it sometimes, or just say, I still don't get it, but thanks for helping me. And so that's one of my favorite things about my career right now.
Same for me. I love teaching students and having them be fascinated by what I do. I also love when I'm giving testimony in court. I love watching jurors' faces light up when they finally understand the concept that I'm trying to explain, and everybody starts nodding at the same time. It's really amazing. And well, like I said before, is explaining to families why their loved ones died so that they can get the answers that they're looking for.
So I'm kind of still in the weeds of like doing a lot of bench work. So I'm not really mentoring anyone at the moment. I hope to get an undergraduate student one day, but for now, mine is I guess fulfilling for me is that I'm inherently quite a creative person. And I love painting and ceramics and all these things. And I kind of thought that I would lose that when I like went in to get a PhD in like science, you know? But what I'm learning every day, and I see a little bit more, is that science, it can be so creative in like the same way that like when you do ceramics, you like think about your clay and your paints and stuff, and those are your tools. And in the same way, science, we have all of our tools, and it's like up to like us and our brains to like create like endless opportunities, and like you can find out so many cool things by using all these amazing tools. And so I think it's quite creative, which sometimes my PI laughs at me when I say that, but I think that's what I like really enjoy about it, is that it's just kind of like a little playground of fun things.
Thank you, guys. Now we want to open it up to the audience. If you guys have any questions, you can raise your hand or just write it on the chat, and Sarah and I will ask them. First one, where do you see yourself in 10 years in your careers?
I have no idea. Probably still doing autopsies and still in my office, still doing the same thing, because I feel like I can't imagine myself doing anything different, but it might be in a completely different location. I've been working in Rochester, New York for 3 years, and then I moved to Puerto Rico for my family 2 years ago. Now I'm moving again back to Florida, back to the US, because working in Puerto Rico is a bit too much for me. And who knows? Forensic pathologists move around a lot just because there's a lot of jobs for us all over the country. And so as soon as we're not satisfied with some aspect of our lives there, we can just pick up and move pretty much anywhere. So That's kind of exciting to me too. I get bored easily of one place. And so I imagine myself probably moving around a few more times.
I'm hoping I'll have tenure and maybe have graduated a couple of graduate students. But generally, yeah, I think just thriving in academia and showing other people that you can have a life and be a good scientist, and you don't have to work crazy hours or be mean to people to get ahead, and maybe making some change in the DEI areas still. So larger, more global change, increasing diversity, equity, inclusion on campuses and just in science in general would be a dream. Not sure what that would look like for me in 10 years, but I know I want that to be some aspect of my career.
Uh, 10 years is a really scary question to answer. So I'm gonna answer in 5 years. In 5 years, I hope to have graduated from the University of Chicago, and hopefully I'll be doing a postdoc, and I'm kind of open to going anywhere in the world. So who knows where I'll end up. But that's kind of the 5-year plan for now. Past that is a lot of TBD and question marks.
Thank you all. Our next question, more of a statement, but the asker says, I just want to hear more about how cool bacteria and viruses are. Seriously fun science panel. And I agree. I love to hear more about the oncolytic viruses. That sounds amazing.
Really? You want me to? Okay, let's
Yes.
do it. Okay. There's this virus called parvovirus, and it doesn't cause, well, okay, so there's one in particular, it's only infects, no, I think it infects dogs a lot, but there's one that's like a rat parvovirus, and people have been testing it as a treatment for glioblastoma. And so, glioblastoma is this like super aggressive brain cancer, and it has like a really bad survival rate. And it's actually, this virus is in clinical trials now, but I guess there's just some things that aren't working out, like how do we make it more efficient, like, and maybe use it in combination with some other drugs that already exist. But I think it's a unique opportunity because, especially with the pandemic, if you say, oh, let us give you a virus to like treat you, everyone's like, no. But a lot of these viruses that don't cause issues in healthy people, what was I going to say? I think people are more likely to, take a experimental approach if you have, I don't know, a year left to live. But this virus, I think, is really cool. But people are using herpes viruses, all kinds of other viruses. Like, I think I saw that people are considering using Zika virus. I don't know if you would want to infect yourself with that, but yeah, I think there's lots of potential out there for using viruses for other cool things.
I know that comment also said bacteria, so I have a very small anecdote. So one of the collaborators that we're currently working with just published this paper from the Sonnenberg lab, not that you guys know that, and they were able to create this bacteria that lets out a therapeutic. I forget exactly what the disease was. I should probably remember that. But the cool part is, so you would take this pill once and it would get these microbes into your stomach, and they would live there totally happily, and they would constantly be surviving there. And if you wanted the therapeutic, you would just eat seaweed, and that would turn on the therapeutic in yourself. So you would just have to eat some seaweed, and then you would like be cured from wherever you wanted. Obviously, I'm so
I want to get in on this too, even though I don't work on bacteria every day. When I was in residency, I did a presentation. I don't know if all y'all know about fecal transplants and how they can be a cure for Clostridium difficile infection. So when people get a lot of antibiotics, it kills off their gut bacteria. And then you can get a fecal transplant from family member. There are companies that produce gut microbiome replacement products, but basically they're bacteria, a bunch of bacteria derived from people's poop that they just spray all along your colon, and it cures you again. So I think that's really interesting too.
Thank you. Very interesting stuff. Our next question is, what was the most difficult part or time in your career?
My first thought was probably going through COVID, which is like, I'm sure there are better answers, but that was the first one that came to mind because I wasn't like able to like kind of do anything in lab, and school was like closed down for a long time, and getting like back into the lab and like having to start up again after having so much time of like reading papers and doing not a ton else at home, and then having to like go back and like readjust to life in the lab and changing expectations, and like even like during COVID, like being okay with not being the most productive that I've ever been in my life, because that's kind of what was always expected of me prior to that. So kind of after this whole experience, I kind of had to like readjust my expectations like for myself. I don't know when my camera stops. Sorry.
That's a good one. Yeah, I think we all have had to learn during the pandemic to just, I don't know, not put so much pressure on ourselves to stay as productive as we may be used to. For me, I think one of the most difficult times was when I was deciding to leave med school. So I think I alluded to this, but maybe not. I went to Morehouse School of Medicine right after graduating to do an MD PhD program. And everyone was like so proud of me. I feel like, you know, again, a lot of people in my culture at least think that you should be a doctor, a medical doctor, or a lawyer, and that's like the sign of success. And so I got into med school and everyone was like, so great. And after maybe a month, I was like, I really don't like this. And so I thought maybe I just need to give it some time. You know, I moved far from home, but it just, I think one day I was sitting there and I thought, wow, this is really not interesting to me. And I can't wait for these 2 years to be over so I can go to the PhD part of the program. And then I was like, wait. And so it was a lot of like inner wrestling with doing what I want to do versus doing what I thought was expected of me. And so making the decision to just leave and apply for graduate school, I like kind of stepped out on a limb because I hadn't got into grad school yet. And so just having to be okay with saying this is not the path for me, and I'm going to try this other thing was difficult, but it worked out, and I'm really glad that I made that decision.
I have a very similar answer, but it's much more recent. I mentioned that for the past 2 years, I've been working in Puerto Rico. I moved here because I wanted to be closer to my family. They're getting older and I want to spend more time with them. But with the pandemic and with the situation Puerto Rico is in right now, it has been very difficult living here. And last year I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and it's just opened my eyes to how bad the medical system is here. And making the decision to take care of myself instead of taking care of everyone else has been really gut-wrenching and really difficult. It's not my responsibility to save the whole Forensic Sciences Institute in Puerto Rico. It's not my job. And I'm going to go somewhere where people are more supportive and where the medical system is a bit more organized and effective. So I still feel guilty about that. The guilt is almost overwhelming sometimes, but I know this is the right decision for me. And it should have taken less time for me to make it. But I'm doing it. So I'm moving next month to Florida, and that's that.
Thank you all for sharing. The next question notices that you are all Charles Drew scholars, and they're wondering if that's a coincidence and what did the program do uniquely for you?
Yeah, so it's really exciting. I'm sorry. But I met all of my friends in MSU through Charles Drew. Basically, moving from Puerto Rico to Michigan when I was 18 was kind of a culture shock. And, you know, people don't kiss on the cheek there. For the first, you know, times that where I met people and immediately kissed them on the cheek, it was surprising, but there are plenty of Puerto Ricans in the program. So I felt a lot of acceptance, and it was really nice to have a place to go when you felt like an outsider.
Yeah, I think having the science community was absolutely crucial to like being where I am today. I think I owe like so much of my success in life to the Drew Scholars, and just like being able to be surrounded by these like really high achieving individuals like really pushed me to like constantly be doing my best and showing them and putting my best foot forward. But also like the leadership of the Drew program, chef's kiss, man. Great, 10 out of 10.
That's great. I think so. I was also, when I came into Michigan State, I was also in Lyman Briggs, and I appreciated both of them equally. But I think that the people in Charles Drew were just way more encouraging, and it's just nice to see other science students who look like you versus what I was meeting in Lyman Briggs necessarily. But yeah, I think just the community that it builds was always really nice to have people that you could study with and, you know, just get help with and talk to. And I still know some of them as well from my years in Charles Drew.
Thank you. Our next question is, what keeps you going or motivated in difficult times?
I think this question is kind of applicable to my life today. I recently been having some struggles with my experience lab about how everything's kind of failing. But actually one of my postdocs pulled me aside and kind of like went through a lot of the data with me. Like what I enjoy so much about what I'm doing is being able to like be around these incredible mentors and incredible women scientists. I mean, there's some great men scientists too, I guess. But like I love just like the interactions of everyone and all of us like using our brains to really like figure out these really intense problems, and you're not doing it alone, you're doing it with this like wonderful, really exciting environment, I think. And so it kind of made me feel better about having all these field experiments. But yeah, it's definitely there's some really good people out there, and that helps to keep me afloat.
Getting answers to the daily puzzles is my motivation. It's very satisfying to figure something out and put all the pieces together so that cause of death and manner of death makes sense. We get to look into some of the most private parts of people's lives, and I'm really nosy, so I really enjoy just looking into everything. So that's why I love doing what I do.
I think for me, what keeps me going in difficult times is like two things. So my friends and my faith. So for my friends, I got this group chat where I'm like, help, I need help, like read my grants. I like this person is driving me crazy. Listen to this thing that they said. Is that weird? Is it just me? And sometimes they can just like assuage some of my anxiety. But when that does not work, which is a lot, I barely have to lean on my faith and just knowing that there is a divine plan for my life and that if I get this grant or not get this grant, or I get this paper in with minimal reviews or major revisions, everything is going to work out how it's supposed to work out. And that's really how I keep motivated, because the day to day can be, a little bit of a drudgery. So just keeping the big picture in mind helps me to stay focused.
Thank you all for that. This question kind of goes along with that, but what advice do you have for the work-life balance?
Don't work on the weekends unless you have to. That's my advice. So some people will work all day, every day, or just be in lab. And I feel like I would rather work, what do they say? Like smarter, not harder. So just I have to figure out how to get all of my stuff into Monday through Friday. If I have to come, absolutely have to, I will go in on the weekends. But if I go every Saturday and Sunday, even if it's for an hour, I feel drained by Tuesday. So I personally cannot do that. And I don't think that we should put pressure on each other to just like be there to make it seem like you're doing more or, you're achieving more. And so do your work, but take time for yourself, even if you are just sitting on your couch and you need to recharge by sitting on your couch. I think that's fine. And hopefully, as a professor, I can pass that on to my trainees, and then we can all just be happy little scientists instead of miserable, very exhausted scientists.
So it may sound cheesy, but just check in on yourself. Put a little reminder on your Apple Watch that says breathe. That little application has helped me immensely. Every hour on the hour, it tells you to breathe. You shouldn't have to remind yourself to do that, but you do. You have to check in on your body and your mental state and say, can I keep doing this effectively? Can I keep working after the 10th hour of work? And be efficient and do it correctly? Well, probably not. So I'm just going to go home. It can wait. It can wait until tomorrow. So just make sure to listen to your body and listen to your mind.
Thank you all. Ooh.
Okay. Oh, am I? Hello? Can you? No? Okay.
You're kind of breaking up.
You know what? I don't have anything. I'm so sorry. My Wi-Fi is not the best. Say the other people's answers. So, but I'll let you guys continue because I think my connection's a little sad.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Our next question is thinking back on your undergraduate and graduate experiences, in what ways could you have been better supported?
I think I'm one of the very few people who felt supported through graduate and undergrad. And even my postdoc, I've been really blessed to have great mentors, especially, I don't have many of the horror stories that a lot of my colleagues do. But I think one way that I could have been more or better supported is just, again, like I mentioned, having a program where like someone just tell me the options for a career so that I didn't have to figure it out the hard way. But even still, I think I figured it out relatively soon, but there are a lot of people who just go years in careers that they didn't they really didn't want to do because they didn't know what the other options were. So I think that could have been a good support system. So again, I'm about to become a professor. I don't know. I think it's a great job for me, but maybe there was something else that I would have enjoyed and I just won't know, but I'm not going to think about it. So just being open to letting your trainees explore different careers and not forcing them into like just really rigid categories maybe.
Can you guys hear me now? Yeah, okay. When it comes to being supported, I feel quite supported. I think I have a really great PI that I have a really good relationship with, and an undergrad, I think those were always good. And I think part of that is because I like really prioritized finding a PI that I knew that I could work well with. So that being aside, I think honestly, is students made a little bit more money, and I'm just going to throw that out there.
I was just thinking the exact same thing. Free college tuition, free medical school. That would have been really nice. That's all.
All right, thank you all. The next question is regarding finding good mentors. Did you actively look for the mentors that you had throughout your career besides your PI or supervisor, or did your path randomly cross with them?
I think for me, it was definitely a little bit of both. Obviously, my PI is someone who I actively sought out, and it happened that we worked really well together, and that's great. But I think also there's a lot of postdocs in my lab that I've just, happened upon them and formed really great connections with them, and they've completely led me in wonderful directions. I think also in undergrad, the labs that I was in, I didn't always get to choose which lab I was in, but the professors were pretty good mentors. So I think it happened both ways where you can seek them out. They kind of happen on you. My invitation to the Drew Scholars, that was a fantastic one too.
I think mine was a little bit of a combination as well. So I didn't necessarily actively seek mentors in certain areas, but if sometimes you have these interactions and you say like, oh yeah, we should talk later, or someone says, you should email me and ask me questions. In the last few years, I've been a lot more deliberate about following up. So if I have a connection with someone, then I want to make sure that I, build my network and don't just say like, oh yeah, let's grab coffee and don't do it. Because a lot of people have great insight. And so, and people become mentors that I didn't expect to be mentors. Even peers can be great mentors for you. So it doesn't have to be like a professor or, a CEO of a company. It could just be anyone that you think you could learn something from.
There's only about 500 practicing forensic pathologists in the United States right now. So they all go usually to an annual meeting. So seeking them out is kind of knowing where they all meet at the same time, and presenting a case study or a survey poster at one of those meetings is a surefire way of meeting a bunch of people and having your pick of your mentor. And that's how I met a lot of people in my field before even starting medical school. So it was good to it's essential really to seek them out and see if they look like happy people doing what they are doing, so that you can decide finally, is this really what I want to do or not?
Thank you. Our next question is, or states, we've just been through an intense time of 2 pandemics. As women of color in science, what insight can you give about balancing your role as a person who can do as you need and the responsibility perhaps felt to bring about change and greater justice?
I can start. This one is tough because especially, in 2020, there's been a lot of talk about diversity and, increasing inclusion. And you just want to like latch onto the moment and be like, let me help and solve something before people decide that, that was yesterday and we don't care anymore. But it can be a lot to carry that burden on top of your own research and your own career. So I think it's important to a lot of us to do those kinds of outreach activities and reach back to our communities. But one thing that I was taught by my mentor, Dr. Elvita Fuller, who's here, is that she once told me that I can do all things, just not at the same time. And so I like wrote that down and I have it on my computer because it's so true. Like, carve out time to do the things that are important to you, but you have to stay focused on, your career because I think Lorraine said this, like it's not your responsibility to, fix an entire healthcare system, and you can contribute, but we don't want to burn ourselves out trying to fix a problem that we didn't really create either. So I think just trying to make sure you do enough to satisfy like your own need to reach back, but don't try to change too much at like too short of a time.
Yeah, recently I read an article about physician burnout and the cure being organizing and activism within the medical community. And I feel like that's true. You feel like you have some semblance of control within your own field. It doesn't have to be in medicine. You can organize in any STEM field, obviously. Just form a women's interest group or volunteer for the Girl Scouts, showing them what you do. That kind of thing is really rewarding and it stays with you. And you form, I spent a weekend with the Girl Scouts showing them what a forensic pathologist does. And I got so many little handwritten thank you notes from these little girls that I'm never going to throw away because they're invaluable. So that kind of thing I think is you don't have to do it every weekend, see what time you have, but once in a while I think is enough. If you want to do more, you can.
I know this question was directed towards women in color, so please don't wait for me to answer.
Okay, I think that was our last question. And so we're going to bring this evening to a close. And we want to thank our panelists for being here and sharing their evening with us, and also sharing about themselves and the knowledge and wisdom that they've gained. We also like to thank our moderators. You have done a wonderful job. And thank you to everyone who is here for being with us this evening and celebrating our speakers and Women's History Month. This event is recorded and we will share it afterwards. And so thank you all again and have a wonderful evening and the rest of your week.